Welcome to Second Step, Improve Academics, Support Students, and Create a Positive School Climate. I am Jackie, your host for today's webinar. We're very glad that you came, and we look forward to spending the next hour or so with you today. So before I pass it over to our presenter, I want to give you a look at our agenda for today's webinar. We'll begin with introductions and a little bit about Committee for Children and the work we do. Next, we'll go over SEL and why it's important to intentionally teach it in elementary school. We'll go through the Second Step Elementary program and its components. We'll show some videos of the program and talk about how it's taught and the resources to support it. We'll end our time together with the additional resources we created to support educators, students, and families during this unprecedented time during the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, leave time at the end for questions and answers. Again, please feel free to send me your questions and comments in the chat box, and I will do my best to answer and provide relevant links and resources along the way. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to our presenter for today, Boris.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jackie. I appreciate the introduction and the sound checks. And as I'm sure all of you are aware and have experienced some of these challenges with WebEx and Zoom and all of the virtual situations. So we do appreciate you being patient with us while we are trying to give you the best presentation possible. So with that, my name is Forrest Walter, and I'm part of the Education Partnerships team here at Committee for Children. I've been here for some time. I work predominantly with the southeastern states, focused on district implementation, rollout, all things Second Step. Before my time here at Committee for Children, I was a second grade teacher, facilitated Second Step in my classroom. So I definitely have a lot of experience with the curriculum and can speak to specific outcomes that you can expect when delivering the curriculum to students. So before we get started on the K-5 Second Step curriculum specifically, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Committee for Children and the work that we do. Committee for Children is a nonprofit based in Seattle, Washington, with a mission to foster the safety and well-being of children through social emotional learning. Yes, it is rainy here in Seattle today, very stormy as you should expect. That is our typical weather. So we are pioneers leading the field with our uniquely comprehensive approach using solid research and connections to experts in the field to bring resources to schools and districts that make a difference in the lives of students, schools, and their communities. We are also leaders in advocacy, helping pass policies and legislation to support SEL, bullying prevention, and child protection at the state and federal level. So if you are interested in advocacy work at all, please join us. Just visit our Committee for Children website at cfchildren.org to learn more about that. Committee for Children is best known for Second Step, which is a family of programs for early learning, elementary and middle school that represent a holistic approach to building more supportive communities for every child through social emotional learning, child protection, and bullying prevention. As you can see by this graphic on the slide, we have expanded our programming to include our out of school time program for K-5 that launched in August of 2020. And then coming soon, we will launch our social emotional learning for adults in 2021. I'll touch more on the SEL for adults program at the end of our time together today to give you a little bit more context and information about the program and how you can access an early module we've released to support staff during the COVID-19 pandemic. If you'd like to learn more about any of our other programs, please join us for another in-depth webinar in the future. Just register in the same place that you found this one at secondstep.org/webinars. Since we began our work in 1979, we have more than 40 years of experience and impact. This year, our programs will reach more than 16.5 million children in all 50 states in the U.S. We are really incredibly proud to reach millions of children and positively impact communities in the US and around the world. We are also very aware and know that we couldn't do that without the dedicated teachers and counselors that deliver our programs each and every day. So I do want to say thank you for all of your efforts to help make our mission a reality. As an organization, we believe and practice our motto, Grow Kinder, in all the ways that we can to support schools, districts, and community-based organizations to grow kinder too. With that, let's go ahead and get started on our topic for today. Now that we know a little bit more about Committee for Children and how the program and add-ons came to be, I'll go into each of the components in a bit more detail, starting with social emotional learning as the foundation. And to do that, I want to start with this question. Why teach SEL? Why is it important? I'm going to assume that most of you who are joining us today have an interest in SEL, maybe even have spent some time researching or teaching social emotional learning to students already. So for those of you who are familiar, I include this information so that you can use it in your work being a champion of social emotional learning and perhaps tasked with bringing others on board or presenting to a committee. For those that this question hasn't been asked before, the next few slides will really help you see the foundation of why we've developed Second Step and some of the research to support our work. Social emotional learning, or SEL, you'll hear me reference it as SEL throughout this presentation, can sometimes get mixed in with other initiatives. And though it's not as much education jargon as it used to be, let's make sure that when we talk about SEL, we're thinking about the same thing. On this slide, there are the 5 social emotional learning competencies. This is all based on the work by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or CASEL. You can find out more about CASEL and their research and resources at casel.org. But basically, the 5 competencies are self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, social awareness, and self-awareness. These competencies translate into specific skills like understanding and managing emotions, setting and achieving positive goals, feeling and showing empathy for others, establishing and maintaining positive relationships over time, and making responsible decisions even in the face of peer pressure. The good news is that these competencies can be taught in many ways and across many settings. They're also a great way to sum up what social emotional learning can do to help students. So I am going to play a short video for you all today.
Challenging, unprecedented, uncertain. These words all describe what we're experiencing right now as students, educators, and families are faced with navigating a new normal. But as we plan for the school year ahead, one thing is clear: the intrinsic value of social emotional learning, or SEL. Here's why. 1. SEL can foster a sense of safety and be used with trauma-sensitive practices. Students can't focus on learning if they don't feel safe and supported. The COVID-19 pandemic and the crisis around systemic racism have created traumatic experiences for many families. These experiences contribute to fear, anger, and anxiety, and increase the risk of toxic stress. As part of a trauma-sensitive approach, SEL can help students manage their emotions in a safe and supportive way and set them up for learning success. 2. SEL helps build positive connections and relationships. This upcoming school year involves a lot of uncertainty, and site closures have made it difficult to maintain the strong relationships that previously developed between students, teachers, and families. This fall, whether you're planning for in-person or remote teaching, using SEL to build trusting connections within your learning community can help lay the necessary foundation for academic learning. 3. SEL helps address the learning inequality caused by school closures. Remote learning is inherently challenging and not always appropriate developmentally. Students who are already struggling socially or academically are often the ones who face more severe challenges with remote learning. SEL can play a key role in helping students build the skills they need for effective learning, from self-regulation to problem solving, especially in an out-of-school setting. 4. SEL provides support to teachers and staff. It's more important than ever to care for educators' well-being. By helping teachers and staff manage stress, build trust with students and colleagues, and stay engaged at work, SEL can strengthen the whole school community. Now is the time to bring SEL front and center. But don't just take our word for it. In a recent survey by CASEL with responses from 37 states, 84% reported that SEL has increased in importance as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And 78% of states reported that district-based SEL requests have increased since the beginning of the pandemic. We often talk about SEL in terms of improving behavior or its academic benefits. But SEL also builds skills that help bring us together in times of crisis and in everyday life. And in this uniquely challenging moment, SEL is a critical tool in both addressing the immediate needs of students, families, and staff, and helping them succeed in the new school year.
One important thing that educators and leaders need to balance is the way that time is spent in the classroom. This slide here highlights a study that was done in 2011 that was a meta-analysis looking at 213 studies of school-based universal interventions for SEL. This meta-analysis was a landmark study because what it did was put numbers to what many people in education felt was true. That kids do better in school if they are socially and emotionally supported, and that schools can take an active role in helping them build skills to help students socially and emotionally both. In turn, allowing them to be able to be ready and able to learn. As you can see, just 1 year of a universal school-wide social emotional learning initiative, the results showed some incredible gains, and importantly, that evidence-based SEL programming is linked to positive academic outcomes. Having a school-wide approach to social emotional learning with an explicit skills instruction program like Second Step in place ensures that students are equipped with a strong set of social emotional skills, and that those same social emotional skills are being modeled by the adults around them. If this is happening, you can imagine how it can improve the relationships within all dynamics of the school community. Student-teacher, students with their peers, as well as relationships formed by teachers and their peers. When you have a strong sense of supportive relationships within the school community, all stakeholders have an increased sense of safety and support in that environment, which ultimately leads to a more positive school environment and school climate. So now we're going to dive into Second Step K-5, so the Second Step Elementary program. The Second Step SEL program is a universal classroom-based curriculum designed to increase students' school success and decrease problem behaviors by promoting social emotional competence and self-regulation. Here's a look at the program materials for grades K through 3, and I'll show you grades 4 and 5 next. The K through 3 classroom kits contain lessons, posters, teaching material notebooks, puppets for grades K and 1, songs and videos that are available on disk or streaming via secondstep.org, and a ton of additional online resources to support your implementation. The grades 4 through 5 classroom kits contain posters, video-based lessons, teaching notebook, DVD, and again, streaming media via secondstep.org, as well as a plethora of online resources to again support an effective implementation and initiative. The topics taught in Second Step K-5 are skills for learning, empathy, emotion management, and problem solving and friendship skills. What's really important to note here is that each of these topics and units really build on each other. The lessons build on each other and give students opportunities to practice each skill before they move on. The program is scaffolded and grade level specific. Our first unit is skills for learning. Essentially, these are the foundational skills to listen, focus, and follow directions in the classroom. We do that by focusing on self-regulation skills to help students be successful learners and strengthening their executive function skills like focusing attention, working memory, inhibitory control. Using self-talk, research shows that children or people who practice positive self-talk are more likely to calm down and achieve their goals. And then being assertive, there are lessons about being assertive, and what we mean by that is teaching students to ask for what they need and need help with in a clear and respectful manner is very important, especially in this age group. Their prefrontal lobe is still developing, and framing sentences and communicating their needs can be difficult when they're experiencing strong emotions. So teaching this specifically is crucial for this age group. One of the main ways that the program supports self-regulation is through our Brain Builder games. These are fun games that support some very specific skills that I mentioned in the previous slide called executive function skills. Those are working memory, impulse control, and focusing attention. Throughout the Brain Builder games, the overall message is that your brain can get stronger and smarter with practice and effort. This is a growth mindset idea that you can always learn and grow over your whole lifetime. The games themselves have about 1 to 2 rules, so pretty basic, and are designed to be played daily or several times a week, and are included in grades K through 3. The games also include directions on how to make the game more challenging so kids will stay engaged and stretch their skill level. In grades 4 and 5, there are activities that build these skills embedded in the lessons themselves. Now, I'm going to show you a Brain Builder game in action. And remember, even though these games look simple and fun, they are teaching very specific skills. See if you can tell which skills the teacher in the video is helping her students practice. You can find more of these kinds of demonstrations of Brain Builder games on secondstep.org. Bear with me while I pull up the video.
All right, boys and girls, today we are going to start out our second step lesson with a Brain Builder, and we are going to play Step or Stay. So I need everybody to move to the outside part of the rug.
I can just sit down and it'll be like right by my spot.
Make sure you have space so that you can jump back and forth. If you're squished, there's room by Audrey and Danielle. Okay, so everyone should be off the rug, toes behind the rug. This is the bank of the river. And then the dark blue border on the rug, that is the river. So if I say in the river, you're going to jump onto the dark blue part of the rug. And if I say on the bank, you're going to jump right off the rug onto the regular carpet. Okay? You guys ready to try this?
Yeah.
Okay. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. In the river. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. In the river. In the river. In the river. On the bank. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. In the river. On the bank. On the bank.
I knew you were going to.
All right, good job. You guys can come back to your carpet spots, please.
Fantastic. Watching that Brain Builder makes me want to play right along. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Next is teaching empathy. And before we teach students how to manage their emotions, all about emotion management, we must first teach them what emotions are and how to identify emotions. So in Unit 2, Empathy, we introduce various emotions and feelings to students. What does happy generally look like? What does sadness, anger, excitement generally look like and feel like? This helps them to begin to understand their own emotions. and others so they can begin to manage them. The lessons also teach respecting similarities and differences, an important part of being able to have empathy for someone else, and the foundation for bullying prevention, and especially as we continue to look at the ways to help kids build positive relationships and keep focus on helping kids understand how to be inclusive and supportive to their peers. Showing care and compassion is also a focus of this unit. Studies show that teaching empathy reduces bullying behaviors, but there's a key component to teaching empathy that's most effective. There needs to be a proactive action component. So what you do if you see someone who is sad, what can you do to help someone feel included during recess or a group activity? Hence, there are also lessons on showing care and compassion specifically. And then lastly, in this unit, we teach some very specific skills that help students to connect to school. Conversation skills, joining groups and making friends, all things that will help kids to enjoy their school experience and want to attend school more, want to come to school. After students learn what emotions are and have perspective taking, they're now ready to learn how to manage strong emotions. In the second step lessons, we share with kids that we all have feelings. It's okay to feel upset, excited, or sad, but it's what you do when you're experiencing strong emotions that is what we can teach them to manage. In this unit, we teach students strategies to manage their emotions and calm down, understanding that we all have feelings in our body, managing frustration and anger, calming down, managing accusation and disappointment, and something that is more and more relevant these days, managing test anxiety. I'm going to play a video for all of you that shows one strategy that is taught in the second step lessons about how to calm down and manage a strong emotion. Bear with me while I pull up our belly breathing video.
Hi, I'm Brent. You know, just like you, I sometimes get mad, frustrated, or excited. And when that happens to me, I use belly breathing to help me calm down. This is how I do it. I put my hands on my belly. I pay attention to my breathing. I take a breath that makes my belly move out when I breathe in, and back in when I breathe out. I breathe in slowly through my nose and out through my mouth. It's like smelling some delicious hot soup and then blowing on it to cool it down.
That is just one of the many strategies that students learn to deal with and calm down when they're feeling a very strong emotion. The last unit in our second step curriculum is problem solving. It teaches students research-based strategies for problem solving, decision making, and planning ahead. We also teach students how to avoid, amend, and solve peer conflicts. You can see in the poster on the right-hand side of the screen, the STEP acronym really helps to put a framework on how to solve problems in steps that kids can understand. The visual of S, say the problem without blame. T, think of solutions. E, explore consequence. What would happen if you picked up one of the solutions? And P, pick the best one and make a plan. These lessons show various scenarios that encourage students to use their problem-solving skills. We are teaching students how to manage their own responses to other students' challenging behaviors so that they're able to respond in a supportive way rather than just reacting. The lessons teach solving problems, playing fairly, taking responsibility, solving classroom problems, and seeking help when needed. Now that we've gone through the content of the program specifically, I'd love to touch now on how to teach the program successfully. Implementing with Fidelity is so key for Second Step. As I mentioned before, all of the lessons and units do build on each other. So it is important that you teach all of the lessons in the order that the curriculum dictates. The next step to implementing with Fidelity is practicing daily. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what kind of reinforcement resources we have and what a daily schedule or weekly schedule will look like for Second Step. But that practicing piece is so important for students to really be able to have time to focus on the skills learned in the lessons and develop those skills with practice time. Next is reinforcement, making sure you are reinforcing those skills in and out of the classroom. And finally, engaging families. We know that students who have engaged families at home with the content that they're learning in school are much more successful. So we have great resources on family engagement as well. One of the most important parts of the effectiveness of the Second Step program, like I mentioned before, is to teach all of the lessons. The best program in the world is only going to be as good as it is taught. So if you decide to teach fewer lessons, you'll have lesser results. Each lesson is about 20 to 40 minutes once per week. They are fully scripted, and we've also included lesson planning notes, engaging skill practice activity, and academic integration activities. This slide provides an overview of the Second Step elementary lessons per grade level. As I previously mentioned, lessons are 20 to 40 minutes long depending on the grade level and are meant to be taught one time per week. We also have 5 additional lessons for Second Step Bullying Prevention Unit and 6 additional lessons for the Second Step Child Protection Unit. So what does a typical week look like for Second Step? This is our following through card, and it is a breakdown of a week teaching Second Step. On day 1, whenever that may be for you, you are going to facilitate the lesson. Teach the students the skills that are in the lesson through the specific lesson card. Now, days 2 through 5 are those practice days, those reinforcement days. Reinforcement can look like playing the calm down music video, having students sing along to the chorus or dance to it, or giving students a difficult warm-up math problem, and coaching them through problem solving and calming down steps as they struggle with the math problem. Each lesson comes with a following through card for suggested daily practice. As I mentioned, each lesson has those following through activities for days 2 through 5. We also have a ton of home link activities, take-home activities shown on the right-hand side of the screen. This is a great way to engage families and help them understand what social emotional learning is and what their students are learning, what their kids are learning in the classroom. Other reinforcement resources, we have reflective writing assessments, as well as book lists for students, teachers, and families that deal specifically with the skills taught in the Second Step lessons. I'll touch briefly on our Second Step Bullying Prevention Unit. The BPU, or Bullying Prevention Unit, is the add-on unit that I mentioned before. It is based on the latest field research, and it really focuses on teaching students how to recognize, report, and refuse bullying. It has unlimited staff training, lessons posters, and DVDs for each grade, family materials, additional online resources, as well as lessons and family materials in Spanish. We do not recommend teaching the Bullying Prevention Unit in a remote learning classroom. Next, I'll briefly touch on our Child Protection Unit. The Child Protection Unit is, just like the Bullying Prevention, an add-on unit for our Second Step SEL curriculum. The research-based Second Step Child Protection Unit provides extensive online training, age-appropriate lessons, and family education materials, so educators, families, and children have the tools they need to recognize and effectively respond to abuse. Similar to the Bullying Prevention Unit, it has unlimited staff training, lessons, posters, and DVDs for each grade, family materials, additional online resources, lessons and family materials in Spanish. And like the bullying prevention unit, we do not recommend teaching the child protection unit in a remote learning environment. Next, I'm going to touch on the available resources that Second Step K5 SEL has. On secondstep.org, you can find a ton of great resources to help a successful implementation and initiative. These are teaching and implementation tools, video examples and classroom demos similar to some of the ones that I've shown you today, Spanish translations, staff training resources, digital versions of program resources, and family resources and tools to engage families. Based on client feedback, we've created a streamlined, more cohesive way for program, teachers, administrators, and families to access our web-based content. This content includes streaming lesson media, program training, and implementation tools. Each grade level from early learning through grade 5, as well as bullying prevention and child protection units, have an updated, easy to navigate lesson and training materials page. We've reorganized the Second Step online resources so that it's easier to find what you're looking for while still providing the content that is critical to teaching the program in the classroom and school-wide implementation. Full lessons are available grade by grade. Each lesson opens to its own page with the lesson resources that includes prep materials, all lesson PDFs, and daily reinforcement material activities. All of the lesson scripts are also now available online for all units. Lastly, training. In the training sections, you'll find the following improvements: updated trainings for bullying prevention and child protection, new certificate design, clear directions to what is required and additional, and the ability to track total time spent across the modules of training. We also have access to to some Spanish materials that are available online. Free online are lessons, scripted lessons, family letters, homelink activities, and a glossary. And then available for purchase from our catalog are additional posters, sing-along CDs, and lesson DVDs for selected grades. Our reinforcement tools are a really great resource for administrators and initiative leaders. The Second Step Elementary Principal Toolkit has morning announcements, school assembly scripts, staff meeting activities, conversation guides, and a lot more resources. This is a great way to show the building or the district that there is support for social emotional learning from the top down. It really helps create teacher buy-in as well as student buy-in to a SEL initiative. Another great resource is our brand new, just launched Second Step Out of School Time. It's our newest research-based social emotional learning program. Second Step Out of School Time is designed to help kids kindergarten through grade 5 develop social emotional skills like community building, empathy, and kindness, and growth mindset. The program contains really fun, age-appropriate activities focused on social emotional learning, durable learning materials in 12 spiral-bound notebooks. There are a total of 147 activities that average 20 minutes each, and each grade band includes 4 units: community building, growth mindset and goal setting, understanding emotions, and empathy and kindness. We are so excited for this new program as a way to keep the focus on SEL throughout the child's day, from school to after school, and supporting out of school time facilitators with high quality research-based resources to help kids thrive no matter where they are. I'm going to play just a short video about our out of school time, so bear with me while I load the video.
For years, kids have developed social emotional skills in after-school and other out-of-school time settings. Now, Second Step is supporting providers with a new approach to social emotional learning. Introducing Second Step Out of School Time. a research-based kindergarten through grade 5 program that includes creative play, games, and the power of voice and choice to make social-emotional learning come alive. Along with resources for staff that make the program easy to implement. Together, we're taking social-emotional learning beyond the classroom, helping out-of-school time become even more of a time for kids and their communities to thrive together.
Fantastic. Thank you for watching that short video. We are really excited about the out of school time and the continuity of social emotional learning from school to out of school to home, keeping SEL at the forefront of the conversation for student learning. Next, I'd like to talk about this pandemic that we're in, the COVID-19 response that Committee for Children has put forth. We know that it is a very stressful time for students, families, and educators alike. Concerns about the short-term and long-term impacts of COVID-19 for students and schools are growing. So we've compiled and created some resources you can use to help young people learn the social emotional skills that they need to get through these challenging events and cope with trying times. First, on our new support page, secondstep.org/COVID-19 support, you'll find back to school resources, so guides for remote, hybrid, and in-person learning supports, online professional learning for educators, which are live webinars for program users and recorded K-5 lessons, as well as our copyright permissions to live stream or record lessons through December 31st. Getting started, supporting an implementation during this time is absolutely challenging. So we've developed an implementation plan for 2020-2021 for Second Step Elementary. It focuses on staff supports and student activities and advice on how to prioritize content to best meet the needs of student and staff when the time is limited. So these are a really great way to get started on your initiative and are free, available on our COVID-19 support page. New units of instruction designed to meet the needs of students returning to school after extended closures are another focus of Committee for Children. No matter the strength of your school community, before last March, it will almost certainly require thoughtful and intentional effort to rebuild in the wake of school closures. If you're teaching remotely, save these until you open up for in-person instruction, whether that's next week, next month, or next year. These are meant for in-person instruction. So recommendations, if you move forward from remote to in-person, is to pause wherever you are in the Second Step program, teach these lessons, these in-person community building lessons that are available on our Second Step COVID support page, then pick up wherever you left off. Let's all level set here. These will be very simple, straightforward lessons, no media. They will be created with hybrid learning in mind, which means with COVID-19 safety measures in mind, whole class discussions, and individual reflections. Partner and small group work will be limited to adhere to that specific support hybrid model. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are also developing a social emotional learning for adults, Second Step social emotional learning for adults. It's designed to strengthen leadership and staff knowledge about social emotional learning and deepen educators' skills. The adult-facing content within this curriculum is broken down into 3 units: self-care, caring for others, and student care. There is also student-facing content, downloadable PowerPoints with lessons for grades K through 12, adapted from Second Step lessons, and general content as well as content focused specifically on the COVID-19 pandemic. We are currently offering free access to a field test version of the Second Step Social Emotional Learning for Adults, Resilience During Crisis module. It's focused on self-care, caring for others, and student care, as I mentioned before. You can find this at second-step-SEL-for-adults-resilience.org. That's a mouthful. It's free to the public and designed for anyone to use. So I highly recommend you check it out. Neither I nor Committee for Children as an organization are experts at anti-racist pedagogy. And Second Step is not an anti-racist curriculum. However, these three organizations are. I highly recommend you explore their 100% free offerings as you plan for supporting your students this fall. Teaching for Tolerance, Facing History and Ourselves, and Greater Good Science Center. Some other resources that I would like to note are really great for families. We have an Imagine Neighborhood podcast. It's a really fun podcast designed to help kids and families tackle the big feelings that come with growing up. It's a great resource to share at home and help continue that conversation of social emotional learning within students' families. Next, we are offering Mind Yeti, which, if you're not familiar with, are our mindfulness sessions. They support students' calm and focus during this difficult time. We've got a ton of free sessions up, and it is designed for adults to do alongside children. Next is our Captain Compassion campaign, which is a campaign focused on comics with fun activities, all about bullying prevention. It follows our superhero, Captain Compassion, showing how everyone can help stop bullying together. Lastly, a resource I would like to point out is great for families, Hot Chocolate Talk. It's our research-based how-to guide, taking the guesswork out of what to say to your child about sexual abuse. So again, great resources to share with your families at home. Finally, we encourage you to join the Second Step Educators community on Facebook. Here you can connect with many educators dealing with issues similar to your own. You can ask questions of your peers, learn what's working for them, and share your own experiences. This is a great way to just ask a question or hear about other strategies that are going on in different school buildings and districts nationwide. I'd like to finish the presentation with a short video. Again, the work that we do wouldn't matter without all of you. You are the educators, the teachers, the district directors, the folks who are putting these initiatives into place, teaching the content to the students. So we really want to thank you because you are the driver of our mission to grow kinder. So please enjoy this last video, and then I'll hop back on to take questions.
The idea that I can improve kids' lives with respect to social and emotional learning makes me feel valuable. I love literature, but I didn't get into teaching because I love books. I got into teaching because I love kids.
We're impacting the world as a teacher, and I think that's great responsibility, and it's great to see the impact that we do have on these students.
We are seeing an increase in academics and academic success, as well as a decrease in negative behaviors. It's given us an opportunity to have those conversations with teachers about when would you send a behavior to the office versus what you can handle in your classroom. And it's empowered them to be able to handle things within their own classroom setting without disrupting that academic environment.
It gives them confidence that they have a set of tools and capacities to approach kids who struggle.
With the kids having better behavior, you're not stopping your lessons every 5 seconds and getting them back on track. You can get a whole lesson in. You can then get to the fun stuff, the experiments or the hands-on in every lesson.
The kids are embracing the songs. Kindergarten teachers are saying the kids love the belly song. And so there's just fun things like that that make it fun to learn.
Just forming these relationships that you know in some way you're changing these students' lives and you're really making a difference.
Establishing that relationship is so crucial because a lot of the time these kids, as they get a little older, they push the boundaries. They don't look at the teacher as that person that they'll listen to everything about.
I carry my feelings on my shoulders sometimes, so if I ever get mad, I stop and breathe and it helps me calm myself down.
I feel really proud if I see them use these skills outside, or they tell me, oh, I use this at home today, That shows me that they're gonna be a good citizen as they grow up.
We need to think about what kind of world we want to build and what kind of future we want for the students across the country, so that we build toward a world that we all want to be a part of.
None of it would work if it weren't for the teachers. Because of their work and dedication and their belief in the systems that we're building, that's why our school is the school that it is today.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I see that there are a couple questions coming into the chat box, so I recommend posting your questions now. I'm going to answer the ones that I have, but feel free to write those in while I answer the question. So I see that one question is, how can games be played via Zoom and virtual learning? That's a great question. We've put forth a lot of thought into this, and we've come up with Second Step remote and hybrid adaptation guides. Basically, those guides are step-by-step instructions on how to adapt the curriculum to your specific school situation, whether that is shifting a brain builder game or shifting a lesson language, not having a student turn and talk, but write down their thoughts to themselves, or go tell someone in their house or place of living. So there are resources on our COVID-19 support page that talk specifically about that adaptation that is necessary, obviously, for virtual or hybrid learning environment. That is a fantastic question. One other thing that I'll say about that is we have put out also a Second Step Elementary Remote Class Meeting Guide, which is a fantastic resource that helps educators establish remote class meetings, and using those meetings to maintain a sense of community with your class. And it has a mix of general strategies as well as specific activities to support that sense of community. So just some resources, but we definitely have a ton on adapting Second Step to being virtual or hybrid, however it is you are. I see another question. Is the Imagine Neighborhood, Mind Yeti, Hot Chocolate Talk, and Captain Compassion free? Absolutely, it is free. You will be getting this slideshow in a follow-up email. All of the links are on there. You can also find them via our Committee for Children website. So definitely check that out. Those are great free resources. Please use them, share them with your families. It is something that is very important right now. I know a lot of families are looking for resources to support at-home education in this very trying time. So those are just some of our free resources that you can access. That is a great question. Looking for other questions, I see, what are the number of lessons per grade and teaching time? So lessons range from 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the age grade level. And that's because we know that kiddos have different attention spans, depending on how old they are. Kindergarten has 25 total lessons, and then first through fifth have 22 total lessons. And again, those lessons are meant to be taught one time per week, with the reinforcement and skill practice activities for the rest of that week. Great question. Again, it is listed in this slideshow, so you can feel free to check that out when you receive it. It's got a chart that goes over exactly how many lessons per age level there are in Second Step. I see another question is coming in. How can I evaluate the progress of students? That's a great question. We have a program evaluation page on our website. We have recommended a few external providers for evaluating your initiative. As you can imagine, it is pretty challenging to evaluate social emotional learning competencies, but we do provide some resources to support that. Let's see, any other questions? I'm going to post here. This is our Second Step support team. You can contact them anytime, 6 to 4:30 p.m. Pacific time at 800-634-4449, extension 1, or at support@secondstep.org. They are extremely knowledgeable and will be able to help answer any of your questions that you may have. Just going to wait a couple minutes for any other questions that you have. They have been really great, the ones that you have asked. Okay, I don't see many others coming in. So I am going to move forward and just say thank you so much, everyone, for attending today's webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn more about Second Step and just think critically with us about social emotional learning and its importance in the education sector today. So again, really appreciate you all taking the time. Please reach out. We are here to help and assist. If you have any sort of questions, reach out to our support, or want any sort of district consultation or anything like that, we are happy to support. So again, reach out. Thank you all for attending today, and I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day.